He called me up and placed a microphone right in front of me. And I heard my voice for the very first time in a very loud speaker, and the world just stopped and froze for me for like,
Welcome to the Mikey G podcast experience. How are you doing, brother? It's a beautiful way to start.
yeah, I'm doing great. Happy to be here and excited for today's chat, man.
What we like to do before we do the famous intro question is just give you a little base about who Sway is as a human being. One, he's got beautiful glasses. Two, been a filmmaker for almost 15 years, maybe even a little over 15 years, 10 years of acting, around 5 years of contemporary digital art space, a lot of AI, a lot of tech, a lot of thinking about what multimedia means in a different space. I also went to Miami-Dade Film School. And most importantly, this dude is a musician and rocks out a mean drum set. How did I do, brother? Anything to add there?
You did great. You did phenomenal. That's me in a nutshell. At least that's all my technical training and my rhythmic training comes from.
Now, this is the fun part, though, because we're already at the world famous Mikey G podcast experience question, which is, Sway, how did you get to the seat you're sitting in today? Our sole purpose and journey here is to understand how all of those things that we just described actually, one, started manifesting as to why was this interesting to you? And then two, what were these like pivotal moments that decided, oh, this is a beautiful insight. Let's start at chapter one. Wherever you want to go, man, hit me. Can't wait to hear it.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, we're going to get into it. I have this vivid memory. I wish I had the picture here with me where I first became aware of my surroundings. And I believe I was around the age of 4, maybe 4, 5. And I have a picture of me where there's a clown. My mom used to work at this retirement home, and she used to bring me there. And my parents are immigrants. The first place that my parents moved to after coming from Honduras, Central America, was L.A. And I was born in L.A. I was there till 5, and then I moved to Miami, and Miami is all I know. So I was growing. I grew up practically during my first 5 years in a retirement home with my mom, and there was this clown. The clown was entertaining the elderly there, and he called me up and placed a microphone right in front of me, and I heard my voice for the very first time in a very loud speaker, and the world just stopped and froze for me for like, like when I ask you, Mikey, can you tell me like the most vivid first memory as a child? Well, that one is it for me, where everything was just like very existential experience in a 4. It was like the first time I've ever heard my voice, and that did something to me. I don't know exactly what it did, but it just grounded me and off to the races with what that with the development of my voice, my creative voice, and using my body in the creative space.
Yep.
Um,
And so this is already fascinating, man. We're done. We could talk forever now, just based off of this one line. And so here's what's always fascinating to me to unpack of it. Like, obviously at the time, you can't reflect and know exactly why that was profound to you. But now looking back, are there any insights you can gain from that in the sense that there's many things happening there? One, you're overcoming fear and rejection.
yeah.
You just saw technology amplify your voice, and that was fascinating to you, and there was something profound about that. Like looking back, is there anything you can derive from is that the beginning of your creative journey, or was that the beginning of more just self-awareness?
I would say more self. The
Mhm.
beginning of my creative journeys, I was always gravitated towards. In my youth, I always wanted like acceptance. I always wanted to be part of something, part of a group.
Mhm.
In high school, I was part of band. I did brotherhoods, and I was part of clubs, and I was also part of ROTC. I always wanted to be something and feel like I was part of something, and I guess it was search for my identity, who I was, and consequently in my youth, I was also part of the church culture, got into groups where I shouldn't, got into like
Right.
very cultish situations. So all that to say is it was always I've always been in a constant search of who I am and my value and who am I meant to be. And
Yeah. I think my question for that is, as you're going through this process, where does the creativity start setting in? And where do you really start finding, hey, I'm interested in drawing or video opposed to math?
Yeah. Middle school, I did art for 2 years, and that marked me, and I was very into drawing hands. The little hands here.
Hands.
Yeah, very into drawing hands and
Okay.
thumbs and
Yeah.
parts. Yeah, yeah, body parts, and you see a lot of that in my recent work. But then I left that. I left that and started doing music. Once
Mhm.
I entered my high school years, my dad is a guitarist and he played for the church, and I started getting involved in the church and the worship team and started playing there, started with the keys, from the keys. And once I started playing keys, I started gravitating towards other instruments, and I landed on playing percussion, the drums, and I
Mhm.
stayed there ever since.
Oh,
Which was the perfect thing to learn before getting into marching band. I was part of drumline, and simultaneously, I'm trying to pack everything because so many layers to this.
no, no, that's
Simultaneously,
take it piece by piece. We're not gonna get to everything, but this is so beautiful already. Keep going, man.
yeah, so if I can give you guys just kinda like a visual, all of this is just happening. I'm part of the church. I'm very involved in high school. I'm also post extracurricular activities. I'm doing martial arts in the evenings. I'm very involved in there. I'm like a purple belt, doing Goju-Ryu, and I'm doing like little films with my high school friends who were I wasn't part of any of the TV programs, but they were, and they casted me as an actor, and we were just doing short films. So I was just involved in so many things, and here my parents are. My mom's always telling me, "You got to be a businessman. You got to study architect. You got to be a pharmacist. You got to be a doctor.
We
You got to
are.
be a lawyer."
Here
So
we are.
now I'm growing up with these conflicted thoughts when I'm spending most of my days being creative,
It's
fitting
no big
in,
deal.
fitting in. Yeah, I can see some of that. Just being good at something and just tying in my skill into my worth as a human being. And obviously I'm not thinking of any of these things when I'm a kid.
Of course,
It's not
Robert.
till I'm much older where I'm like, wait, I can't tie in my art to my identity because I am more than my art. I'm more than these tools. I'm more than what I picked up
Right.
in life.
I can't
So
wait to talk about that.
yeah.
So it's a
So
combination of skill, fitting in. You've got exploration there. The other thing that is just the natural conversation is this is starting the manifestation of what creativity means to you, right? And this is such a important topic, especially with the age of AI. You're always like, oh, AI is going to make humans less creative. I argue it's going to make us more creative than we've ever been before if you treat it right. What is, when you start trying to define in your own version what creativity means to you, what is that?
well, I now I just define it as just having the ability to express yourself, and that comes in many shapes and forms, right?
Beautiful.
I see creativity in art in almost everything now, and I know there's some people that have a specific definition, but I even boil it down to like you are the art at the end of the day in a world where we're so in this attention economy where everyone's trying to pull you and trying to influence you. You what we're all trying to do is we all want to be seen for who we really are. So, you mentioned something earlier before we hopped into the call where before we went live on the space is that oh, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
It's okay.
I lost my
So
train of thought.
before we hopped on the call, we talked about how much I love this, how I want to tell your human story, uh,
Yes.
how you as a human being is the most important thing. And I think we were talking about creativity in the sense that uh, it's an exploratory exercise, but also it's ultimately an expression of who you are as an individual.
Yeah. But I had a specific thought, but it'll come to me. It'll come
I
to
was
me.
hoping that would that would
Yeah,
spark
I
it.
know. It'll come to me. It'll
It's
come
no
to me. It
big
was
deal.
very,
So
but yeah.
okay, so it's now you're starting to manifest in all of these different things. Any back to if you're open to talking about your parents, because I'm also
Yeah,
fascinated about kind of like home life and upbringing and what love and structure and comfort and because I firmly believe my good-hearted nature comes from I knew my mom just unconditionally loved me and I felt it, right? And
yeah.
so any insights there about what that looked like for you?
Well, number one, I have amazing parents. I love them, and I'm entering my 40s, and I'll answer your question right now. But when you enter, once you pass your mid 30s, right, you tend to be very sensitive about life. You care less about birthdays, and you're very sensitive about calls coming in at 3 in the morning. And you don't know, you hope your parents are doing well, and you get no surprises. So my parents are very supportive with all this. It's funny seeing like waking up to like 20 likes, and it's my mom like watching all my weird stuff. It's hilarious. And my dad. It's just hilarious. I was looking at his profile right now, which has no profile pictures, just his name. He has no pictures
So
uploaded
good.
whatsoever. So it's just this empty profile, but it's him. He's just liking all my stuff. But they're amazing people, hardworking, blue collar parents. My dad was moved to Miami, and he sort of reinvented himself, and he was in the truck industry for many years. So he just recently, 2 weeks ago, retired from it.
Right.
um, Truck driver. My mom was an unlicensed Miami people. Okay. Context. This is Miami. Unlicensed pharmacy tech, an excellent pharmacy tech. She knew all her medicines. She did everything right to the T. Never got licensed because she's never really picked up English, but she was, professionally trained within the circle of friends she has there, but did what they could to give me a good home. Now we moved to Miami. They become, and this is why I keep mentioning it because it's such a fundamental thing in my life. Is they become like this born again, Christians, and some things change. Right.
Mm,
I'm very active in school. I'm raised in this somewhere somewhat low middle class environment. The schools that I'm going to are very, very diverse, predominantly black, then Latino. So again, Miami. There's a lot of things coming at me as far as like cultures and subculture wise, learning the culture of my parents, learning what it is to be American, adapting and acclimating to what's happening in the 90s. We have
uh-huh.
MTV, we have all the Saturday cartoons and
We
Nickelodeon. All these things are
got
just I'm
murder rap
being bumped.
coming on the scene, bro.
Murder rap. I'm like, I think I'm ghetto. I'm walking around. I remember perfectly, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but like I started dressing like ghetto. I'm like, baggy
Please do go
pants.
on
I
a
have like,
tangent.
yeah, I'm wearing baggy pants on, and like, but I'm a person of principles, and again, my mom and my parents' voice, and thank God, literally, I was brought up in that culture because, I was safe from becoming something that I probably would regret, because of the influences and being easily influenced. A person that's seeking validation can be easily
Yeah,
influenced by
100%.
the wrong influence,
Yeah.
right? So,
And so is faith and parenting like that is your main drivers there where you think you went the right way?
that is definitely the main driver. There's a little bit of both. It's the thing that really gave me principles and morals, and it helped me navigate life. It saved me from like, because of the fear of God, or trying to be a God fearing man, but to put it better, really didn't succumb to like influences, drugs, alcohol, and
Yeah.
any of that, or the party life, or
Yeah.
anything like that. But at the same time, secluded myself, and I was kind of living like this double life where I wanted to grow up just like a normal teenager and young adult, but was also conflicted, and because I had to separate myself from the world. And as I grew older, I started seeing that I just started growing more distance, and there were so many things that I missed out on. Fast forward a couple of years, now I'm like catching up.
So that's exactly, you actually started answering my follow-up question, which is this concept comes up time and time again on this podcast, and just you hear it all the time. You have intimate experience with it, which is this. I'm sure at the time when you're in the thick of it, you're thinking some of parts of your situation is a disadvantaged situation. But if you reflect back on it, one of the advantages of what I just heard is multicultural, lots of exposure to all of these different
Yeah.
things. And what is the strength or the power in that looking back, or do you think about that at this day and age?
Well, of course, all of that is just normal to me,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think about it that much, and I try not to project myself as the multicultural guy because that's just part of who I am.
Yeah, but I'm not.
Uh,
I don't want to
you know, just
paint the picture. For instance, like, listen, man, I grew up in white suburban America. I think there were
yeah,
2 black kids in my school. That was it,
hmm
right? Whereas you had a way more cultural diverse upbringing.
very.
But I have an insanely open mind, and I'm exploratory and creative too. And so what I'm interested in is just your take on that, as like how that impacted you in your way.
As I grow older and become even more curious than before, because now I actually try to understand why I am the way I am, or why I was brought up the way, and what
Right,
are the advantages and
right,
disadvantages.
right,
Looking at
right.
all that, um, I'm. It excites me to know that, and this is something that I try to. So I'm a father as well. I have 3 kids, and their experience is completely different from mine. I, in my own way, I'm kind of shielding my kids from like a bunch of things as well. So hopefully, I don't know if I'm repeating a pattern or doing a good job or a bad job, but like
Right,
I'm trying
right,
my best. Okay.
right.
But they're in a way, quote unquote, better position than me. We moved away from the Miami bubble, which is why when I'm reflecting on it so much more now, because I'm not in that world.
Right,
I'm more
right.
like, oh, when I first moved, I'm in upstate South Carolina. When I first moved here, here's a little secret. It felt a little bit weird. I felt a little bit alienated, not because of how I was treated. I was
No, no,
accepted
no.
and treated perfectly
I
fine.
can imagine, man.
But I was like, I felt out of place. I didn't know if this was the right move. There was a lot of pros as to why I did it. I wanted to expose my kids to a different life, more outdoors, mountains, a bunch of things that I didn't have the opportunity to grow up with. Uh, I wouldn't call my life like a very outdoor adventure life, but it's more like a city life, right? And I wanted to give my kids a complete something different, or a mix or a hybrid of that.
Right, right.
So to my point is that I'm reflecting on that heavily now, and very proud to know that I am bicultural, have a, I would say, a great taste, or very open to music. If you check out my YouTube music, I'm listening to like Bad Bunny. Everyone knows who Bad Bunny is, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like listening to Bad Bunny, but I'm also listening to country, but I'm also listening to hip hop, and I'm listening to like,
Same.
all right, I'm gonna go back to listen to Tupac and Busta Rhymes, just like how I did back when I was, a kid and stuff. Like, I'm gonna listen to some Nas, and like, very, very thankful that I was exposed to that, because now I was like, I'm not that person who I was before. I'm a completely different person now, but I could take that knowledge base, right? If we're gonna get into that AI, I'm gonna take that knowledge base and
Yeah,
just build on top of it,
dude,
you know,
it's
and
beautiful.
just become the different version of myself, or
Yeah,
an
and
improved version of myself.
wholeheartedly, fundamentally agree, and I think you would agree with this, and like to the audience that hears this is that I could not stress enough how important it is to interject yourself into as many cultures or different cuisines or music or art styles or things, because there's just so many beautiful things out there. And I did the opposite, right? I grew up in literally like white picket fence, prototypical white suburbia. And then I went to Penn State. Now, Penn State had a diverse, it's actually a heavy Asian population. It was a big engineering school, but it was really not till like Web3, right? I'm in my 30s till I start this podcast. And now I'm talking to people all over the world from all different backgrounds. And just this 5-year stint of this podcast has fundamentally changed who I am as a person. Um, and I actually think it's an advantage to now there's advantages and disadvantages to anything, everything in consequences, but the advantage that you kind of confirmed there for me is that exposure to multiculturals at a young age is really cool. And it's a really cool opportunity. Obviously, when you're thinking of it, you're not thinking about this. Dude, incredible conversation already. Let's
Yeah.
fast forward a little bit to high school. Let's really start talking about you are we already painted this picture of beautiful life. I understand who you are now. Slip it, a slip or a slip it. A an insight or a sliver into the mind of Sway at a young age. Now, when you're starting to formalize, okay, I'm doing all these different things, I have to start making some decisions about what I want to do.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Man, so what do I want to be when I grow up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, f- senior year, everything comes to an end, right? I'm not part of anything anymore. It's over. It's time to grow up
Hmm, hmm,
and and find a career. So I'm conflicted, right? So I think I know, but I don't know. I end up choosing things that really doesn't align with my personality, my way of thinking.
hmm,
I'm a person with self-diagnosed ADHD,
hmm,
dyslexia, which is why I like being everywhere and doing so many things all at once. And with that comes struggles, reading comprehension, communication struggles, and social anxiety, and not being 100% comfortable or myself around people, and dealing with all of this while I'm growing up. And I just I do poorly in school.
hmm,
Like, I don't know what to do. I can't seem to pass any of the classes, can't pass English, can't pass math. And we're gonna start getting into the specialization courses. And I'm like, I took accounting one and failed. I'm like, okay, this is not for me.
hmm.
So going back to how just being part of a faith-based community made such an impact in my life is that I was involved in that. That was literally the only thing I could do past high school because I was done with like martial arts. I mentioned
Right,
that
right.
earlier. I was done with that. Funny story about my martial arts. When I was in martial arts, that's that's how I got started into acting, and I'll touch on that later. Um, I was involved. I was part of the media team in the church, and it was the only thing I consider myself good at, right?
Mm,
I did consider studying music, but I couldn't sight read, you know? And I was just and still to this day I'm like nerve wreck, I don't even know how I got into to acting because I always have to like audition and stuff, and that's always a nightmare. But I love the act, performing. I love all of that. But the process of getting or booking, that takes a big mental toll on me,
yeah,
because anxiety.
yeah.
So so doing media, I felt comfortable doing that. Music didn't work out. I tried everything. I took music like to be a classical musician, to be part of a symphony because I was good at percussion. I'm like, but that didn't work out. I wanted to do a jazz ensemble. That didn't work out either. So I was like, in my mid-20s is when I ended up going back to 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 school. So I was like 24 when I decided, okay, I'm gonna give this whole college thing another try. And I was like, well, I remember going back to school. I did all my general eds to just like, okay, I got to do something, right?
Yeah,
At least a liberal arts or something.
right,
To get a paper. My mom always said, you need to have that paper on the wall. That's the only
right,
important thing. That's why we're
right.
sacrificing everything here. You gotta have that little paper,
Yeah, yeah,
That's a stick it to the man kind of thing.
yeah.
I saw this big. I was in a, it was called Wolfson campus in Miami-Dade College, and I saw this big sign for the film program, and it had like a massive uh 35. I think it was like a 16 or 35 millimeter camera. I'm like, I think I want to do that because already in church I was involved doing like editing. I was just a beast, doing all these like promo videos. Come to our church, blah blah blah, and I was like doing all these like Bible stories. Like I was just man, I could create like little vignettes
Was
and
it a
movies and stuff.
craft of you could do something and create something new? What was it about that it excited you about that?
What excited me about that was putting the pieces of a puzzle together.
Mm,
At least in the beginning, it wasn't much about telling a story.
right.
I knew I've always had a creative mind. I've always would come up with like interesting, chaotic scenarios that would eventually formulate and turn into a story. What gravitated me the most is more like the technical part of film and editing, which is being able to tinker with a tool
Yeah.
and just, film something and break it apart and like, oh, this is like magic, and
Yep.
tell something very succinct and have a point to and deliver a message and for it to have an impact to a viewer. And again, I would like to add like a note. It was like I grew up very naive. I grew up
Mm,
very naive. I didn't even know what film celluloid was until I got into film school, right? And I was exposed to loading cameras and understanding the science part to how a film, becomes exposed to light and blah blah blah. And then it got really technical in school. It was a great Miami-Dade College. I mean, I don't know the program now, but it's just a phenomenal school. It takes you through everything. So did VFX, green screens, motion graphics, script writing, TV, documentary, everything but acting. Acting is sort of something I picked up
yeah.
later because of all the influence and me being part of all these little short films in high school. And it wasn't again till I was in karate where I was like, aha, you're meant to do this. Because it was a Disney producer. In Miami, there's a Coral Gable, there's this little neighborhood called probably a
I know
neighborhood
Coral
called
Gables, man. I shot
Coral
some
Gables?
film down there.
Okay, great. So Coral Gables has a Disney office there, and I guess they
Okay.
serve Latin America.
Yeah.
All the offices there serve Latin America for the most part. And a Disney producer walked in the dojo because I was doing Goju-Ryu, kind of pointed at me. I was like, "Would you like to do a little spot for Tarzan, you know, uh, promo?" That they're
That's
gonna
so
show
cool.
in Brazil or something like that. And I have
Yeah.
the promo here somewhere. I could share it with you if you want to share it. Put it here.
Oh, I would love
Um,
to see it.
so we shot the promo at a rooftop of Disney. I remember going into like the Disney. I was like, my mind was blown. I must have been like 18, 16, 17, 18. My mind was blown because I'm walking in the Disney studio and you see like this big neon LED silhouette of Mickey
Yeah.
right by
Yeah.
the front desk. I'm like, this is a dream. This is a
This is
dream,
it.
right? This is it. I made it, mom. And did the shoot. It was very sports themed shoot because he had me, had a bunch of like rollerblade guys. It was just shooting, doing a bunch of things, spotlighting a lot of like extreme sports. And I came in for the martial arts, and I was like being thrown like a rag doll by some girl. Um, and then he cut my first check. It was like 50 or $100 for being in it. I got the bug. I was like, okay, cool. This could be a thing. So, but it wasn't until after film school where I started becoming serious. I ended up getting an agent, doing a bunch of like independent short films, and got
So
into
I'm sure
college.
you have a ton of thoughts about that whole transformation. So we can go many different ways right now. I think one of the there's two things that come to mind first, which is what our schooling and what we went through now and when it's back in our because I'm probably a couple years older than you, but similar generation. That I don't think will exist in the future, especially for my 2.5-year-old son, right? And so, for the people that are listening to this that are younger, that are thinking about film and creativity, and they're in this transition right now, what what is your advice to them? How do you look at that part and transition in your journey, knowing what you went through now? And because I love our generation. Our generation grew up knocking on doors. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet, and now we're going to have robots in our home.
Yeah,
What is your
yeah.
thought there on this whole transition for those people right now?
Well, yeah. You don't have to go the traditional route, and that's the beauty of like with all this tech now,
Mhm.
right? It's like you don't have to go to school and like study, film to get a. I mean, if your goal is, and my goals change. While I was in film school, like I had this set plan. I was like, okay, I'm gonna graduate from here, maybe maybe move to like LA and pursue a post-production career. Really didn't think I would make it as a director or anything beyond that. Cinematographer, I think it just required too much. It was too much puzzling. I enjoyed the safety of being in a dark room and just like leave me alone, let me figure it out, and we'll piece something together that's just gonna blow your mind. So I was sold with this idea of just like either I'm gonna become an editor for a live action studio or an or animation studio, and then I'm gonna pursue that and do the traditional route, which is a very slow process. Go up the ladder, be an assistant editor for like X amount of years until someone, gives you the opportunity. So, um, you don't have to do that anymore. Obviously, in a world of like YouTube and stuff, um, you can literally pick up. I have a camera here with me, and this camera is about the lens costs more than the body itself, and this camera right now costs about like $400, and it's 9 years old, and it still shoots 4K high quality. If I want to get into like shooting flat or with log and stuff, I can shoot and give you a cinematic quality. Like this is where we are with technology, where you can pick up a 10-year-old camera and shoot a movie or start a show or do a podcast and just do it. Just do it and build in public, create in public, make mistakes, and then along the way build relationships because it's with the relationships, and then eventually you'll get to a place where you'll m- find a mentor or find someone that you admire and learn from them on and become much better than what you were months years ago.
Yeah, one of the things I just heard
That's the
you
path.
say too is like just do it, but there's also a lot of failure and fear of rejection in there. And I think
Yeah.
I hear a lot about this in the kind of the people that are in these younger generations of how terrifying that is to them. Do you think about that with your kids, or do you hear that, or what are any thoughts on this fear of rejection and how to deal with that?
I think, um, oh God, so many things to unpack there.
Yeah,
When
tons.
when it comes to expose, right, it's putting yourself out there, doing this what we're doing right now. It's
Hmm.
it's it's really vulnerable, right? I'm
Yeah,
sharing my story, and I don't know who's gonna grab my story, twist it, and use it against me,
yeah,
right? I don't think I've mentioned anything private or sensitive, but someone can literally grab this piece of film and just twist my words if they wanted to, or just
100%.
or take this piece of media, train my voice, and grab my face and do whatever they want and put me on in an image or video where I will be unpleasant, right? That's the world that we're living in, and you got to accept that reality. You can't be naive, right? Um, my recent work has been I've been in this weird position of virality where I'm being exposed to a lot of opinions that really don't, both good and bad and evil, they don't do anything. They don't affect me whatsoever because I reached that level of maturity.
Mm,
But that won't be the case for everyone. So you need to accept the fact that if this is going to be part of your career where you're going to use your persona as a brand, use your face as a brand, well, expect, the unexpected, and expect, this is never going to be you're never going to receive good news, praise, or support as much as you think in your head. It's a scary place. The internet is a scary place. And when it comes to my kids, you asked, I have a teenager, and she doesn't have social media. But I use myself as an example, and I show her how my world is and the hate, and because I'm so involved with AI, and anyone could just look me up, find my address, my old address, find my phone number that I've been using for years, and call if they want to cause harm, they can.
yeah,
So I have that all behind my mind, and every day I think, should I just disappear and just delete every single thing
right,
that I have online?
right.
So it's scary. It's scary to know that all this info is out, and being an actor, being an entertainer doesn't help. Doesn't help either. So that's kind of the trade-off that comes with making that decision.
So I think about that myself as well, right? My brand is literally my face. Like my logo is my face,
Yeah.
right? My beard and my glasses and my hair and my like wavy hair. Uh, but I fortunately so far I have not had many negative experiences because I think it's the nature of my brand. My nature of the brand is trying to give back and help humanity. But that is actually what drives me through, and I'd love to hear what that mission is for you that drives you through, because you've got a different twist on, you're doing this absurdity stuff, so you actually open yourself up to a lot more interpretation than I do. Although people just disagree with me and think I'm an idiot, even
That's
though I'm
fine.
trying to be nice in my own term. But what I'm getting at is how I get through it is I fundamentally believe in my heart what I'm doing helps humanity by telling human stories. How do you get through your side of that fear?
You generally believe you're helping humanity with what you're doing. Um, I I believe I'm doing that, maybe not as direct as you. I mean, maybe now I am with the what I've been doing with my brand Absurd,
Mhm,
where I operate off this philosophy and belief where you need to escape the ordinary and embrace the nonsense,
mhm.
and like constantly sending harping the message where you just have to sabotage everything and lean into the strange and be
Yeah,
authentically you.
yeah,
That's the sort of thing I'm doing with my work. And and recently I've been saying the proof is in the work, right? I don't have to write about it every single day. When you see my piece of content, the theme is the belief.
mm,
And there's a spectrum to the things that I
yeah,
do.
yeah,
It's not only absurd, it could be very muted, it could be very loud, it could be very chaotic, it could be very minimal. It could feel like you're watching something in a gallery, it could be feels like a commercial. It's all over the place, just how I grew up in this crazy, in this crazy life. Um,
no,
all that yeah, all that to is all that it serves as a megaphone to say, hey, I'm strange too, I'm being vulnerable right now. And I mean, if you go to like, and I intentionally left some of my old content
yeah,
unlisted, because whoever's a fan, I want you to go to my personal like YouTube and see all the skits I used to do. I used to do a lot of character work, and I love doing character work, a lot of sketch comedy. And that was like, okay, Imma do something where I'm more flamboyant. Imma do something where it's more like more masculine, more like, mafioso. I'm gonna do all these different characters and just, again, be very vulnerable, whether vulnerable in a sense where it's like, are people gonna believe it? People gonna think I'm good enough? Or does the idea sell? Um, right now, all of that is just proof, is just like what I contributed to this life and entertainment and media and now with my art.
I
So,
love your answer because it's a hybrid of purpose, but it's also, it's in, like, this using art as almost a self-awareness education play that it's okay to be absurd, it's okay to be weird, it's okay to be all these different things, and it's your version of that. Um, it's
and
really
you know
beautiful.
what it is? Like I've come to the conclusion where, because I've obviously been doing my homework and trying to like I investigate what it even means, what I'm trying to like convey here is it doesn't take much effort. It shouldn't take you any effort to be absurd, because absurdity is so close to who you already are. You don't have to try. I did a lot of improv comedy. I did a lot of stage improv comedy. And one of the rules is don't be funny. Don't be funny. Don't go for the joke, right? So the same thing applies here. If I go for the absurdity, I'll be too on the nose. And the work does the heavy lifting for me, because it comes from like my worldview, how I see life, and what how I'm testing these tools, and how I'm leaning into like body distortion and doing my world building and art direction. And that's already taking care of that.
Yeah,
Now I'm just focusing on the am I being clear with this message? And not to say that every artist, I mean, needs to navigate with a belief, but this is the path that I chose, and things just fall in line. It's just more clear as to why I create. And this season in my life I create because I want to inspire people to just be themselves. At the end of the day, be yourself, because that's in a world where everyone wants like acceptance, it's
Yeah.
like being yourself is the best thing you could do for you.
So, talk to me about this because I'm sure this comes up now more than ever. And I think this is a constant theme as being an artist is like one of the cool things about being an artist is exactly what you just talked about, which was taking risk, finding kind of your niche and helping people embrace change. You're impacting your world through absurdity. But it inevitably that also comes through a look and feel as an artist. And then this constant struggle of like, I don't want sway is defined by so many different things. I don't want to get caught into the like, this is the look and feel of Sway the artist. Even that, the fact of that is absurd, right? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how am I struggling to get? So, what do you think about? Is that a thing you think about? Is this something that artists have to think about more often than not, or um,
I mean,
because people are
that,
so
that
wrapped up in visual identity and look and
yeah,
feel is what I'm getting at, which is a big interpretation of what a lot of people think artists and art is, right?
yeah. I mean, that's. Here's the thing: when you put out the kind of work that I do, it's like you're throwing this wide net and you're capturing all different types of audiences. You
Hmm.
know, one piece of artwork or content might resonate with one person, and they might be interested in doing further investigation and really get into the depth of the belief or try to understand you as the artist. Or some are just like, give me, give me, give me, or just like takers, right? But they don't want to dive into it. And all that is fine. I mean, I think that's the purpose of art is to, and then you have the people that are completely disgust. I just had a conversation with I want to call her a friend, but it's just a digital acquaintance who personally asked me to unsubscribe her from my content because my platform was giving her a hard time to unsubscribe to to my Friday's newsletter because it's like I love the absurdity, but it's just way too much. It's making me nauseous. I'm like, that's fine. I love that she got a visceral reaction from it, and I love that other people have gotten a visceral disgust reaction from it because that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to make you react. And I'm in a place where I'm trying to be very, very careful, but I'm appreciating the feedback loop that I'm in. I love reading the comments because again, don't recommend it if you're sensitive to what people think. But I think that I'm okay and I don't lose sleep and my ego is never boosted if like someone just adores my stuff. I'm like, I don't care because I'm gonna move on, I'm gonna do something else and it's gonna flip. I'm gonna flip it and like, and yeah, I'm gonna do me.
Yeah, yeah,
But the negative stuff or what my work reminds you of, all of that has been great feedback for I treat my work as almost like a product, right? Because like I do want to get better at what I do. I want to continue expressing and feel free, because maybe one day I'll just get tired and not do it anymore. But I'm enjoying this because the internet itself is is part of the social experiment to my art
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm a digital artist and my art is being exhibited online. It's not in a gallery. It's not in the cinemas. This is a place where I am, where I live, and this is where my work is seen and appreciated, and also disliked. And that too, I want that,
Which is
right?
part of the absurdity.
It's just part of the
I,
absurdity,
I I think about
you
this all
know?
the time. I absolutely despise social media, but it is a necessary evil for me to build the thing I love.
Right? I mean, if you're
It's
liked by
like a
everyone, right,
contradiction,
it's like you're doing something wrong.
huh?
If you're liked by everyone, you're
Yeah,
doing something wrong. You're
yeah,
not being true to yourself.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So, and that's really, and you just reminded me. I've been on a David Lynch. I've been watching a lot of his interviews and stuff like that. And I saw this video for the first time like 2 days ago, where someone was asking him, telling him, they brought up to him like, oh, you went to a psychologist one time, but then you just walked out on them, right? I was like, why? Well, I asked the David Lynch says I asked the psychologist if he treats me and heals me or whatever helps me, will it affect my creativity? And honestly, the psychologist says, I think it will. Okay, I don't need this. And he walked out of the room.
I mean, hey, man, that's a good way to. But I love you said so many beautiful things there, but the biggest thing I took away were for, and I think this is a lot of art, um, too. This podcast is art for me, right? And this is a totally different way to get there. But we're also fundamental to what I'm trying to do is evoke a human emotion. The human emotion and the action that I'm trying to evoke is to spark somebody to say, oh my gosh, I've been told 1,000 times to take risk or be creative, but Sway looks like me, has been from the same thing, has had this cultural, multicultural upbringing and struggle. And that sentence that he said about the clown made me realize, and it just fired some because this is what how's our brains work, right?
Yeah.
Some of the craziest realizations and moments that I've had have just been from like this synapse in the back of my brain that has laid dormant for God knows how long. And because of some sentence, it got fired. And now I'm like completely, just rejuvenated.
Yeah. I mean, this is opinions vary, right? But I would say, to go deeper, I wouldn't say the podcast itself is the art, but you, Mikey, how you navigate through the podcast and the skills
Yes,
that you
yes,
have acquired throughout the years,
correct.
right? To really go in like a double-edged sword and just pierce through
Yes,
and ask the right questions and dissect and be curious and being able to pull out, the right answers, or the answers that the listener might need. That's a superpower, and that's an art in itself. And that's just one side of it, right? Because the art could be how eloquent and how you just navigate and in the way that you carry yourself, and someone might find your voice or your face soothing, and
you're
that's
right.
enough. That's
Right.
enough for them, and that brings them,
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
anxiety levels down, and
Hmm.
they look forward to listening to your podcast, regardless
Hmm.
whether it's me or someone else, but
Yeah.
they want to listen to you. Uh, yeah,
You're
it's
you're
it's
good.
it's a
You're top
phenomenon.
tier, especially with the glasses. But you nailed it, right?
Yeah,
I didn't do my explanation justice, and that is, I say this a lot. It's the beautiful thing is I get all of these beautiful, brilliant brains that are creatives and builders and founders, and I actually a little selfishly get to learn every time I have this conversation. So part of the art is the learning through doing my art, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of, there's this famous interview that I love watching over and over. It's with Marlon Brando. It's like a little bit Marlon Brando being interviewed by like Dick Cavett in the Dick Cavett show. And he's asking literally the same thing where you're asking right now about art. He's asking about acting, right? And then, Marlon Brando, for lack of a better term, kind of 69s on him, like, yeah, but you're doing acting too,
Hmm.
and he gives them like, what you're doing right now, the way that you're composed, you're already thinking about the next question that you're gonna ask, and like
Right.
you're like three questions ahead, and you're looking at my body, and you're looking at the background. Is Sway having a good time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it boring? And like all that is an art. You have to watch it, and I'll remind you what we're just
I
talking
can't
about
wait.
right now.
Yeah, dude. Wow, I would definitely want to watch that. Speaking of
It's
thinking of
very
the
meta.
next question,
Mm,
we've just had such a beautiful organic conversation. I'd much prefer that. I'm still interested before we start rolling into AI because I know you have a long journey with that and I definitely want to get there. I'm interested. Let's maybe just do two. I said 3 to 5 before we got on, but like two of you started at film school, right? And
yeah,
I worked for Geico, this massive car insurance company. We spent over $2 billion, and I have my whole personal opinion about LA and the TV and the film industry. And then you made probably many different journeys, but I'm really interested in those insights, like maybe two insights of like, well, I started to get into film because of X, and I'm like, well, shit, this is exactly what it's not, and I need to pivot and why, and so give me a couple of those if you have.
yeah. Well, simultaneously, while I was in film school, I started working already in production. Started doing a
Hmm.
lot of second shooting,
Hmm.
um, weddings, real estate, the whole works.
Yep.
In Miami, we have a very big, and I mentioned it earlier, very big like Latin market for both film and acting. Like Univision, Telemundo, and stuff like that. I started doing PA stuff for like shows. Um, and I started getting a little small taste of like how the world would look like if I were to want to pursue this. And the more I worked, the less I realized like this is not what I want to do. I don't want to be part of the system, the machine, right? I want to do my own thing.
Mm.
Um,
Why is that?
I just wasn't being as creative as I thought. I was like just doing a job. I was just doing
Yeah.
a job, right?
Okay.
And none of these jobs I was doing really asked anything beyond, the scope of just the formula and the template, how cookie cutter things were supposed to be, you know. And that what really didn't challenge me, and when I was in film school, I was very excited because it was just whole new world. I thought I knew what I was getting into. I really wasn't. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
that's where my like movie journey began. I started watching so many movies, reading so many books on like cinematography, directing, screenwriting, getting to know all these like classical directors, getting into commercials, like documentaries, and just being very analytical, critical, and trying to more learn from every single thing I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful thing. I really didn't learn much from my screenwriting teacher, but I do remember something she said, and she says, "If you want to write scripts, go live a little." And I'm like, "Okay, that's some like wise
That's a great
words."
one.
Yeah, that's a good.
How about more of the so you're in the industry, maybe you pivot to a couple other jobs or careers, and whether it's from the personal growth side or um industry X or leadership or people skills, what are some of those moments that it felt like this was a little bit of an unlock and a learning lesson for me? Do you have any of those?
Um, repeat that question again. The one on
So
leadership.
transition. I'll take for instance me.
Hmm.
I thought I was really comfortable with change, right? Because I was a creative guy and I was making big commercials, and not till my and I've always been told I was creative, but not until my wife got her dream job. And I said, "Well, yeah, we're married. Of course, I'm not going to not let you do your dream job." And I left my entire friends, family, and life I knew and moved across the country. Did I actually realize I'm not comfortable with change at all? Which was
Hmm.
the big unlock. And it was like a big unlock and insight for me. Like things like that, that you were like, you know what? I was actually totally wrong about this. And this actually helped level or insight me up. Anything there?
Yeah. Well, again, grew up very naive. I had such a positive I still do, but, it's such a positive view in the world, and I thought the universe was just gonna hand me everything, and people
Same.
were gonna see
Same, dude.
the
I thought the
potential.
world was Disneyland. My mom painted
Right,
that picture.
exactly, that's how I approached everything, and I had the contrary experience. For some reason, I was a magnet
Mm,
for being underestimated.
mm.
Anywhere I went, a magnet, complete magnet, and I've learned now that I'm older to turn that into fuel. I'm like, to this day, like, it doesn't even surprise me anymore to be, like, underestimated, to think that I can. I don't know what it is. Maybe the way I project myself, maybe I'm too kind, maybe I'm too I don't know what it is. Um, which is why that world, the world of entertainment, at least from a production side, never really we never really like danced well together
Mm.
because I felt like I always had to compete to prove something to someone, something that to become someone that I'm not. Uh, and which led me to a path where like I have to be an independent filmmaker. I got to do my own thing, and that's when I started working in a couple small production companies, raised a little bit of money, and that's when I decided, you know, about three 4 years later, after film school, I started my own little boutique agency, and I started doing like my little small gigs here and there, like corporate videos, branding videos, and that sort of thing. And I had more control and say. So, and it
Yeah.
was just survival for me, Mikey. It was
Yeah.
survival. It was like if I want to make it here, like I had friends that will help out, but because I lacked the business skill and I would charge super duper cheap. Like I had to do everything. I had to shoot. I had to edit. I had to direct. I had to run business. I had to make deals. Blah 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 blah. I had to learn
That's a beautiful
everything.
insight. So combining, you've done it all.
I've
What
done it
is the
all.
insight and unlock of people that are in that position? What are they
Yep.
what do you think they're concentrating on that they probably shouldn't be? Or what would you have done differently now that you know what you know?
Um, what would have done differently is not be afraid of asking if there's someone around you who you admire, respect, who you see as this person is successful, don't be afraid to ask them how they did it because the chances are they're more willing than to share their information to how they got to the place.
Everything.
Sadly for me, my as great as my parents are, they taught me the bare minimums of like how to budget and just how to be an actual adult or have a thriving business. My parents never knew what it was to run a business. So for me to take that leap and not having that experience, not coming from a business school, failing accounting, um, and be like, okay, the only book I have here is like what Dave Ramsey. I like been reading a bunch of Dave Ramsey books
Yeah.
and like and a bunch of like Seth Godin and stuff like that. I was like, that's all I got. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
got to run with that. And
Yep.
unfortunately for me, like Chat GBT, Gemini wasn't available and wasn't giving me all the stuff that I
Nope.
needed. I had to like Google the templates and figure it out by myself, figure out how to budget and do invoices and do negotiations. And again, all that I did poorly because I failed to ask. Maybe I should have
Mm,
asked my dad.
same.
Maybe I should have asked another adult or another business person. I consider myself curious. I think I could have been a little bit more curious and
Yeah.
just
No.
more like
Just a really beautiful insight and couldn't be more important this day and age, which you're gonna have machines figuring out a lot for you, that there's just this human layer, elasticity that we still need to make sure we don't lose.
and Mikey, I asked dumb questions, and I think that's why, right? It was like it takes me again ADHD, just like say, it takes me a while to get it, to get it. But when I got it, oh man, I could explain it to the world. My gift is to be able to explain things very simply to people, complex ideas very
Yes.
simply to people.
Yes.
Once I get it,
Yeah.
but because I was in this rejection, cycle where people underestimated me, or maybe it was just the way that I saw the world.
Yeah.
Maybe that it wasn't really like that. That was one of the reasons I was just afraid to ask, afraid to, and that prevented me from the growth.
Yeah.
Um,
Man,
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful insight. Let's do this, man. We're getting close to our hour and a half,
Ooh, that
because it's
flies.
just been such a beautiful conversation. I want to start transitioning chapter 3 AI. Anything else in this area? Like, and I wanted to also be clear, like what did we could have? We'll have many more conversations. You started talking about how you started your own little creative shop. Have
Mhm.
you been an entrepreneur since then? Ever since then?
No, no, that
Okay.
I was failed entrepreneur. Failed
Okay.
entrepreneur. It's not too recently where I started picking that up again and try to do things right
Okay. Okay.
with the brand. But that didn't last too long. Maybe for a good 2 years until I decided to become like a part time like dad. So like I end up doing freelance and being stay at home dad most of the time.
Nice.
3 kids and post COVID, it was just crazy. Um, and it was during that time where I decided, well, let me do this acting thing because I don't need to commit to a schedule or anything like that until I actually book something. And when I do, it's gonna be worth it. And I did that for a good 2 years, where I was like a full time actor, did a lot of commercial work, print work, and stuff, little gigs here and there, and where that kept me and my family afloat. Uh, and then to segue, and then the strikes happened. Things started
Yes.
slowing down. AI started to rise, and I saw the opportunity. It was like well, I'm not making money here anymore.
Well, COVID
And
decimated the industry too.
exactly, COVID did its thing, did its damage. Um, I need to reinvent myself again. Um, what do I do? So um, I see AI on the rise. People
Yeah,
talk about it.
what about AI gave you the bug? Because I feel like you got the bug, Johnny had the bug. Like there's this cohort of people that I talked to that got the bug somehow, some way. What was that
Well,
for you?
it was Midjourney. I started hearing like I've
Mhm.
always been active on X.
Yeah,
Um, um, I was just more like creeping on people's like socials. I was just following a lot of thought leaders, right? Not very being active or contributor of the space, but just participant. Um, I saw a lot of people talk about this Midjourney stuff, and a good friend of mine by the name of Nam Perez, big shout out to him. Um, he started tinkering with Midjourney, and he ended up doing like this mood board for a film that he wanted to pitch, and I was very impressed by that. I ended up reaching out to him. The way that I met Nam Paris, he's a commercial director, and we I met him in a shoot where I was a principal actor. He was a commercial director for this brand called Visible, which is a cell phone company. Visible, they were running a campaign. I was a principal actor. It was a great gig. He directed the commercial. It was a phenomenal. It was like very like Office, Parks and Rec style, which is like right in my alley again, like improv comedy. That's my jam. So I booked that, and we kept in contact. I reached out to him like, "Hey, man, I see you tinkering with this Mid-Journey stuff, this AI stuff. I really don't know how to get into it because when you go to the Mid-Journey page, you get like this like code animation, and to me, that was kind of like a shock. Right? I was like, "What is this? What am I getting into?" Right? It's purely design and not actual code. But that kind of like that was a I was afraid of getting into that because I thought it was going to be very sophisticated. But he kind of showed me, do this, do that, and I started subscribing to a bunch of platforms.
yeah,
And man, I just went full force with that and very creative. And like, and it wasn't until like several months later where Nem and I we got together and decided this AI thing. This is 2022, 23. This AI thing is just gonna completely change everything. It's just gonna change the game. It's gonna shake Hollywood, and it's gonna make a lot of noise. We should make the first AI feature film. You
mm,
down? It's like we could both be executive producers, and we did. We end up recruiting like 50 plus AI filmmakers to do like a reinterpretation of Terminator 2 Judgment Day,
mhm,
where we took the 50, we split up to like 30 to 50 scenes of Terminator 2 and reinterpret them. We assigned those scenes to all these AI filmmakers, and they did their own twist on it. And we try to keep a cohesive story. We screened the film in LA. We had like over 200 plus people attended. We had Variety talking about us. We had it was the IndieWire? IndieWire talking about us? Yeah,
IndieWire.
yeah. I think yeah, IndieWire talking about us, and we got a lot of press, and we made a lot of noise. We got a lot of hate, but we made it happen, and it was a success. We were afraid that James Cameron was gonna come after us, but he didn't. And we were expecting Arnold to appear, but no, he didn't either. So that was a huge success, and our relationship with the community just grew even more. And I'm friends with many till this day. And ever since, I've been active in the space. And because of AI, I became very active in the Web3 space, doing crypto art
Yeah,
or on-chain art.
yep.
And that's really where my world has been as of lately.
So question there. You just mentioned something super interesting though. Is you pulled something off very early that whereas everybody's head was, and you got all this notoriety. Do you look at that moment in time and saying that was a success of what you pulled off, but oh man, I wish I could have converted that into like financial success, or did you accomplish your goal of what you wanted to do?
Well, we know it couldn't be a financial success because it was
Copyrighted
you know,
material.
copyrighted material, and we went the parody route to hopefully bypass that, and even went to the extent of trying to like, can we make this thing a nonprofit? Because it was just really more for the joy of filmmaking and
Mm,
to like really put AI art in a vault and to say like, this is how AI art looked like in 2022, 2023. and it's only going to get better than this. This is the worst AI will be at.
Is it a YouTube link? Is it public?
It's on YouTube. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Dude, we're gonna have
Yeah,
to link
you'll
to
find
that
it.
on
Yeah,
the
just search
podcast
for
recap.
our T2 remake, and you'll find it there. Yeah, it's inspired, and I have to credit Nem for this because he spearheaded this, and it was
That's
inspired
so
by
cool.
yeah, by the RoboCop remake.
So take me. I'm not too interested. I'm really more interested in this AI revolution and the just the crazy stuff that you're pushing out. But before we get there, what has been maybe looking back from that moment in time, 2022 to 2023 to now? What is your biggest surprise? Or are you surprised? Are you underwhelmed? Or do you think it's gone way faster? Like, what have been your insights as growing as an artist with this technology?
Know that I'm always going to be surprised because Mikey, every month, every 2 weeks, something new comes up, right? It's like it's hard to build on top of on top of these tools, right? Because
Yeah.
you have to be flexible and adapt, and the tools have improved. So I'm always surprised what AI could do, and I'm never really, unlike many of my colleagues, my AI film colleagues, I was never married to this idea where I'm gonna make the next film outside of like the movie that we made. I never was gun ho like I'm gonna make another feature film or an original feature film just using AI purely. I was never sold on that idea
Mhm.
because I think it was just way too early to say. And this is because I went to film school and I studied a little bit of VFX and I dabbled with like 3D and stuff like that. So I had taste, right? But I also was like, I was open to like the distortion, the hallucination, and I wasn't afraid of introducing that and having that be part of like my brand. I was not afraid. A lot of people were, right? A Hollywood film directors, known celebrities couldn't really do that, right? Tie their name to something that looks wonky. I did. Um, and I'm glad I did because I evolved with it. So because I have this thing is like I'm not only obsessed about the technology, but I'm still obsessed, just like how I was in high school and in college, of learning and learning. And I'm like, if I'm not learning about film, I'm learning about art. If I'm not, like, and if art is too broad, then I go into like, okay, if I'm doing all this surreal work, let me do my homework and just start looking at Dali, Picasso, Duchamp, like get into all these artists that made a name for themselves, you
Yeah.
know, Rene Magritte, and like looking at all this and do my homework, right? There was a time where I was like very deep into like who were the pioneers of like video art. You have Bill Viola, you have Namjoon Pike. I was like looking at those guys who weren't like Hollywood people. There were people involved in the art space. So while everyone after the film, everyone went, all right, we're going after Hollywood. I was like, okay, guys, I'm gonna do my art thing here and Web3 and sell NFTs. I don't know. Well, now I have a bigger network of friends. But before I didn't, or who also, mint their work and have collectors and stuff. But I can, I'm proud to say I don't have a film that sold millions or thousands, but I have a bunch of works that have sold for hundreds, and and I'm thankful for the technology that has allowed me to express myself the
Right.
way that I have.
So I actually went to, I don't know if I told you, I was trained formerly as a designer too. So I went to design school, Penn State. And I have always found, and you just touched on this, and I would love your response to this, which is I actually think design and art and this output of the things, to me, it's 80% research and 20%
Totally,
output.
dude.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you have to sit down and find the inspiration and like, there's a famous quote of copy, steal, I go and get inspired. And how can I take an existing work, an existing painting, not literally, I don't do that. Like, that's kind of like the boundaries where that's where I draw the line. I don't take existing work and throw it into a model and like copy this. No, no. I'm often just brain dumping word for word the things that I want to bring into existence with these tools. Uh, but I'm looking at like spending hours on Pinterest, spending hours on YouTube, watching old stuff. Like I spent the past week and this is where my inspiration and everything uh comes from. Is like just watching last night. I was like, I do it for pleasure as well, but last night I was watching Misery. Yeah, Invaders of the Body Snatchers. I was like a lot of like Cronenberg's work, and I was doing a lot of Dave Cunningham's work, like the looking at the old PS2 commercials and stuff. And that was because going back to what I was saying, the this weird place where I'm at with AI is where I'm getting like where I really get a kick is out of everything is just the feedback where a lot of people say reminds me of this, reminds me of that, reminds me of PS2, reminds me of like five gum. I'm like, what are you talking about? Let me go and see. Oh, this is what you mean. I'm gonna go in deeper. I'm gonna research more. And I'm pulling inspirations from there to validate the idea. Or maybe not. So it's like it's really up to me.
During your research phase, I'm interested in the because you said a couple things, and I think about that. I struggle with this in myself, and I'm just interested in your processes. Like because there's multiple things when you research. Let's take Misery, like you said. You can look at the cinematography. You can look at the way it's cut. You can look at the set design. You can look at the costumes. You look at
Yeah.
the story.
So much.
How do you
So much.
break color grading, all of these different things? How are you breaking that down in your mind when you're doing the research phase?
Man, it's different every day, right? It's like
Mhm,
reading a book,
mhm.
right? Or on a theme of faith, it's like when you read a proverb, like it speaks to you differently every single day. It's like that with film and a picture and a painting. It
Mhm.
says thing to you now. You might think you're being very analytical and you're breaking things down into like these different layers. Chances are you're missing something, and that something's not gonna pop till, like, you see the thing again after a whole refresh and start, or maybe after, like, 3 cups of coffee, or maybe after, like, LSD, I don't know,
Yeah.
you know? So, you pick up on things, but when you intentionally sometimes, a lot of times I'm looking for when I look at more classical films that really tested the that has been tested time, that are considered classics, that are more globally accepted, I tend to poke and ask, why did it work? And that's where I really need to get into the structure and and I have I'm like I'm not don't get it twisted. I know the differences between like what could be video art experimental, it could very David Lynch, but I can also know what works, for something that it could be very like Spielberg, right?
Right.
One is function, the other one is expression, right? It's like architecture, it's like sculpting, right? It's like you're gonna build a chair, but if you're gonna do something like a chair with spikes, well, doesn't have the same utility. So
Right.
that's kind of like the things that I'm hopping back and forth. So when I'm like dissecting a piece of work, yeah, I'm looking at all those things and I'm
Yeah.
trying to see
Yeah.
what made it work. Why do I feel, why is the color this way? What's the texture? And I'm often asking Gemini more info on cinematographer, the art production, who did the wardrobe. I'm like, because it knows more than me, right? So like, and then I go
That's
down rabbit
my
holes and
biggest
look at,
unlock.
yeah,
Dude. That's my biggest unlock. Like I've just like prompting to one do the research and then help it manifest all of the different styles of artwork, let's say, right? Like I'm building a
yeah,
logo.
of
Well,
course.
our human brain just get like stuck unless I'm seeing something. But like, let's just go down the research and the history of logo design and types of different artwork, right? And then you start injecting that into your own thoughts, and it's just like it's such a game changer.
It does, and it adds more it enriches you
Yeah,
as an artist, right? If you're doing it as a job, is he doing it because you have to, because it's part of the pipeline, and
yeah,
because you have to present it to the client just to have something where you're gonna do your thing anyway? That kinda sucks, right?
yeah,
Like, do it because you wanna enrich yourself and, like, respect, the industry that you're in. Because 'cause you're an artist, you want people to remember your work too and your name too, right? You do the same, right? And, don't do it one time, do it many times, and I'm often going back, I'm like, "Oh, man, I forgot I really dig this artist," who I forgot about, and
Can
yeah.
you make 5 to 10 minutes more work?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
let's
yeah.
do this. I don't wanna do you a disservice. I would love for you to talk about your current state, um, all the absurd stuff that you're working on. So, like, if you were to pitch, And it's not a pitch, I wouldn't put it a pitch, but in a succinct way, describe what you're excited about now with the things that you're working on, your personal brand and, um, absurd.com. What
Yeah.
how would you say that in a concise way?
Man, in a world that's forcing you to be normal, choose to be absurd. And
Mm,
that goes in line with the belief, right? Escape the ordinary, own the nonsense. And that means leaning into your own uniqueness, be authentically you, being unapologetically you, and not being afraid of experimenting and expressing yourself. This goes beyond like identity. This goes beyond the facade and the spectacle. This is the human experience, right? And that's what I'm building with absurd. And the media and also what I call like the physical artifacts, which are like the apparels and the accessories, those serve as a talisman, as a reminder of like what we as a community should be going after, right? I'm phrasing it in a way that's unique to the absurd world. But if you take it, it's almost like a universal law, right? Like just be yourself. And when people well, what I want when people see absurd, I want the brand icon, I want the name, I want the work to reflect that. Sure, yeah, I'm automatically charging my works with like, this is what comes out of the mind of Sway, and this is what I'm feeling today, and this is what I'm going for, and like, of course, I'm like paying homage to homage to like artists and painters and directors and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the sole purpose is to empower people in a very very absurd way, and visually you could see there's an absurd I have a visual of it. There's an absurd tonal spectrum that I use where I can go very dark, chaotic, minimal, or very quirky, or very playful, or very like hairy, anthropomorphic talking fishes. It's like I can go wild with it, but it's all part of what I'm trying to say with the messaging.
yeah.
Um
And was there an aha moment for this evolution of the new brand, or was this a subtle thing growing over time since you're
It was a sudden moment. It was a December. It was the last week of December, Mikey. I unfortunately, that I was part of like Augmented Imagination, a
yeah.
startup where we're trying to build a product, build a tool to like was going to be very like involved in the Gen AI space. That didn't work out. We tried to pivot, become an agency. That didn't work out either. So we were all kind of like left on our own. And I had this a different name that I was going to start the brand with, and I just on paper it was like, yeah, it sounds pretty cool, but it felt off. There was something off about it, but I kept moving. I was going to call it VidCult, VID cult, and I was going to go more for like a very cult,
Mm,
dark, very like ominous, enigmatic, because I kind of dig that too. So I was all about what's it called? The like alchemy visuals and being very like cryptic and stuff. That was the route I was gonna take. But I felt like as I was building the mood boards and all that stuff, it's just like it was so off of who I really am and
mm,
the works that I've been building on top of. And because I'm very playful in nature, very curious, very chaotic, and I love narratives. I think both linearly and non-linearly, and I love experimentation and humor and all that. It just made sense. So like absurd, absurd, absurd. I'm like, okay, wouldn't it, eh, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be absurd, right? Like, wouldn't it be absurd if I just remove the U and add a double R to it, or like something silly like
yeah,
that? I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, that's it. Like I'm
yeah.
hyping myself up. I'm trying to convince myself this is a good idea. Like, yeah, this is it. This is it. And I started using tools. I opened up Illustrator or Photoshop, and I started working on brand icons and diving deep into. Learned a lot from Johnny Ashcroft. Big shout out to my boy Johnny, art director, brand design man. The dude is a legend, and picked up a lot from him from like how to approach a brand. So did a lot of brand explorations, trying to figure out the identity, and had my everything worked out for me there. Did my homework, and then I'm like, okay, well, what follows after is like brand awareness. Build in public, create, and like, let's see if this thing is a thing, and put a couple of products, and which I end up considering like, although like right now at the beginning it still is like print on demand and stuff, but I think that was a good route to like, hey, this is my MVP. Let's see if people bite. Let's see if people bite and believe along with me. As I build on the philosophy and the lore, which I'm still am, and every day is like I am learning from it. It's gotten to that point where it's like now it reminds me is a reflection. I learn from it. It corrects me. Like that's when I know, oh, I got something here. And again, the feedback, right? And people are appreciating it and building a public, and it's has not reached its final form. Um, and it's going to be very, very personal, very niche, and it's going to cater a specific crowd of people who identifies with the messaging. But
So there is an end form business entity or goal in mind then?
oh yeah, for sure,
Okay.
for sure, for
Okay.
sure. We'll love for this to like absurd. It has evolved from like being an extension of like my absurdity and my like nonsensical stuff to what I consider it being now. Still in its early stages, I'm sort of prematurely announcing that it's considered conceptual studio, right? Where I'm doing like digital concepts and it's a brand. So conceptual studio and building a brand, selling apparel, and see where
Yeah, I
it
I
goes from
have
there.
to, I'll have to link up this guy, Justin Cram. I just randomly met him on LinkedIn, and he came up with a creative kind of improv studio, all based off of when all of this virtual, like, AI stuff was just basically AI is it's been interesting, you being a Web3 guy. I don't know if you've seen Cylinder Powders, but to me, like, AI is going through a Web3 moment where so much of it is just kinda, like, overhyped BS and noise,
Yes.
and he just wrote a post one night about how he spun up a new virtual AI agency and gave it like an agency name and everything. He woke up to like
Wow.
700,000 likes, right?
Mm,
And he called it shit show creative as a joke. And then
hilarious.
he was like talking to his buddies like, "What the fuck can I do with this?" And he was like, "Dude, you got to create a company. Like, why not do this?"
Wow.
That he would be a great person for you to talk to.
That'll be great. That'll be great. Yeah.
So let's do this. Whatever you want to share in the next 3 to 6 months, I ask one question from everybody that's been on the podcast, and then we'll wind it down. It's been beautiful. So, what do the next 3 to 6 months look like for you?
Oh man. So hopefully the by then the brand has grown both in product wise and the brand is not built on like AI rails, right? So it's not AI dependent. And that's the beauty of it, right?
Mm,
I am very, very pro AI. I use these tools a lot, but the brand is not absurd is not AI dependent. And eventually I'll be introducing more physical works and be able to flex more by like traditional filmmaking and performance and stuff like that. That's the plan. Really getting into the physical is the goal, and how that would look like. I don't know whether it's 3D printing or
mhm.
what. Um, really getting into that, and hopefully you'll see some of my works next 3 to 6 months in physical galleries and break out of the digital space. Because as much as I love this place, it's we know there's a trend, Mikey. There's a trend where because of the rise of AI, people are begging for in real life experience. So how can I be part of that too? Because I don't want to be stuck here in the room.
I think that
Yeah.
is going to be huge. And
Yeah.
I have fun ideas too because uh I went through some detours myself too of like trying to help my buddies out. I was thinking about, like, went down the startup route, and I always come back to this. I'm like, dude, just do what you're good at and double down on your art, and then figure out ways in the future. Not saying it'll be tomorrow, but like call us way up and be like, what's an absurd idea is to tell uh, a human story with the most absurd graphics this way can cook up. And what does that content look like? And how does the internet react to that? Right. Like
Exactly.
there's just so many really interesting things that you could do just by engaging in my network that I've done and then doubling down on what you're good at and what you love to do.
Exactly.
And
I
I
mean,
get
and
so distracted, you know?
yeah. But when it comes to for anyone starting to use, and I don't know if you were going to ask, but I'm going to mention it anyways. But if anyone who's starting to use these tools for creative purposes, and I'm not talking about like LLMs or anything like that. I'm talking about image models, video models. I mean, you got to the way that you got to treat it. If you're someone of like my age or Mikey's age, or the young people are just going to get it, right? Uh, but treat them as just as a camera, right? Just treat it as a disposable camera, because the next model is just going to be better and greater. And don't fear it, just accept it. But with it, build your brand, your identity. You build your what makes you you,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
because at the end they're going to reach out to me or to whoever because of how you wield it and what you could do with it, not because you use AI.
Yeah.
Period. You know.
Yep. And that's the
So
ironic part about all of this, right? Is there's the narrative out there predominantly is if you're not AI first, you're dead. But really, the narrative to me is if you do not, if you're not self aware and using AI, you're dead.
yeah,
There's
I mean,
still
we still have people using terms like, and they're trying to sell you on these courses, become a prompt AI engineer,
bullshit.
become an AI architect for your business. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You're just going to give me a bunch of templates to put into like ChatGPT,
Yeah, which
so
AI is going to do a way better job to help you out for your
exactly.
own instance, right? It's
Exactly.
really this period, and this will be the big part is how many, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast, is the true next pandemic is this complete lack of self-awareness, because there is a majority of this world caught up in how much money they make and what their job title is, which means nothing about who they are as a human being.
Yeah.
And when you rip
Yeah.
that away, you don't even know where to start. And
Well, my wife,
I don't think you want AI directing you on where to start.
yeah. I mean, now's a good time to start that business that even at a part-time level, if you have 10 hours a week, I'm like, start the business. My wife is getting into, she has been getting into like uh, reselling and thrifting, and she's using AI for, to build the infrastructure for that and stuff, because she works in HR, and she's afraid because they just hired an agent, or they just bought an agent, and the agent does everything she does. She sees what could possibly
Oh,
happen in 6 months,
100%.
right?
That like the
So
next pain of the next 5 years are there will be those HR jobs. They go away,
they go
right?
away.
But there will be, I think there's a little too much fear put in the complete evisceration of jobs, because there will be many new jobs um, created. And the problem that's always happened with humans is fear keeps people stagnant. And I will guarantee you this, Mikey with AI, the Mikey without AI will never be able to compete with the Mikey with
Well, of
AI.
course. And it's
And
not
there's
only
going to be
fear.
certain people that don't become the Mikey with AI, right?
Yeah. It's like, and it's not only fear. And we talk, I'm telling you from experience. It's like, I also want to say, I know you're tired, but just, and I know it's like, I'm not
So
afraid. I'm just
tired.
tired. I don't want to know about,
I'm
I don't want to be in
so
the computer another 4 or 5 hours. It's like, I get it. I'm just
tired.
coming after you because I don't want to give too much info, but the person who brought in the agent is the supervisor. Her supervisor is doing all the use case studies. She's looking out for herself. She wants her stamp, her approval that, yeah, the
Oh,
agent does the job
sure.
because I made it do this.
Yeah.
And the ones under,
Yeah. Yeah.
fine.
But
So
the one under,
you have the
if you
time.
take like you still look at the stats, man. It's staggering the amount of people that do not use AI, and and how quickly it is moving. It's and a prime example is the last thing I'll say, and we'll shut it down. Is
Yeah, because I gotta go.
eh, uh, I am showing how AI is decimating things in a corporate environment, and people are still like, I don't believe that. I'm like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to tell you people. So, all right, man. Last question, then we'll wind it down. Um, you have now just been through the Mike G podcast experience. If someone were to ask you what it was like to come through the show and the experience, what would you say?
I'm talking to a friend.
Ah, beautiful.
The only thing missing here is coffee and
Yeah,
us being together in real life. So I
beautiful.
had a blast and I
Thank
love it. Thank you for the questions and the wonderful experience. I love that you helped me and both helped me, forced me, encouraged me to reflect, look back at my life because now this is online and then one day, my daughter, my boys, if they're curious, they can look at this and just learn a little bit more about me.
you. Yeah, yeah, beautiful.
So you did an awesome thing.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I will just say quickly, like, absolutely, it's not lost on me that you did that reflection and the clown. I mean, we hit it right off the bat with a clown story, man. You had
Yeah.
no qualms of going that, and then we talked about faith and parenting and the don't try to be funny with the improv. We had what it is to be absurd. We did the full circle of the conversation of, and then the creative thing was beautiful about what does creative mean, and then we just had an inflection point about talking about what creative is actually happening in loud time. So
You want to
thank
bring
you.
it full circle, Mikey? I'm gonna do clown school.
You're going what?
I'm doing a clown school or a clown course.
There you go. Into full circle to end it on. We talked about clowns today,
And I'm not lying.
and
Yeah.
he's going to clown school. This is the beginning of a beautiful budding friendship. I will let you go right away.
Appreciate you.
And I'll reach back out to you via email. But thank you so much for your time. It is not lost on me, man. You just gave me an hour and 37 minutes of it. I
Yeah,
appreciate you.
thank you. Thank your audience for listening.
Yeah, much love, man. Later.